Hello again, everybody. This is Ed, back with another episode of Call Me Mr. Broadstreet. Sorry for the delay. I kind of got a little bit sidetracked. All of my own doing, of course. But I wanted to go ahead and get back, no real pun intended, to my reviews. So this week, we're doing part 2 of the John Lennon Imagine 1988 film. What we're doing, as you saw in the photos, is the soundtrack. This is the CD version right here that I have. So with the soundtrack, it was released in the US and UK, both on October 10th of 1988. Now in the US charts, it went to number 31, actually going gold, so it kind of did well as far as being a film soundtrack goes. UK charts was number 64. And of course, the release date, October 10th of 1988, that would have been John Lennon's 48th birthday, had he still been with us. So just going to kind of go through track by track some of my impressions and kind of, as it were, with the album at the end, kind of giving an overall grading in the grand scheme of things, as I like to do. Let's see, so first track we have is Real Love. Now this opens up both the film and the soundtrack, which kind of follows closely together. This is the first time we're hearing this unreleased song of John's. It's really charming. It's a really nicely done song. We would later hear kind of a more beefed up version for the anthology in 1996. At that point in 1996, Paul, George, and Ringo would work on it. Now this is just kind of John on guitar, singing, whistling along a little bit. This version here is 2 minutes and 48 seconds versus the later reworked anthology version at 3 minutes and 54 seconds. And although the anthology version, the second comeback single, as it were, for the Threedles, as they were called during the anthology sessions, is a nice song. I prefer this version. I think this version definitely has more charm to it than what we got in the 96 version. And for the record, I think Free as a Bird from the anthology sessions, that was released in 1995. That's kind of a little better as a comeback song. I think they all the three surviving Beatles at that point, plus John's initial songwriting, they all got a songwriting credit. They did actually on the anthology version as well, but of this song of Real Love. But of course, again, yeah, they are a little bit more like sidemen. It's that song in particular is already finished. They're just kind of augmenting it a little bit versus being able to put some other verses or lines or whatever in Free as a Bird. So take that as you will. Just my take on it. Anyways, most of the songs, now we kind of get like almost a half and half that just follows the film closely. We get a whole mix of Beatles songs with some solo songs. I'll just kind of go in a little bit more with each one. We get the second track, Twist and Shout. This is from the Beatles' 1963 album, Please Please Me, released March 22nd of 1963. This hit number 2 in the US. It's the only cover song they did as a single to actually hit the top 5 in the US. Original version was done by a group by the name of the Top Notes in 1961. I've never heard that version myself. The Isley Brothers recorded their own version in 1962, which I have heard, versus the Beatles version in 1963. So next we kind of skip ahead a bit in the Beatles chronology, at least. For the third track we get Help. That's the title track to the 1965 film, number 1 single in the US. John crying out for help. Really well done song in my opinion. Track number 4, In My Life, that's from 1965 Rubber Soul album. Not released as a single in the US, but a very important song in John's career, kind of reflecting on what had happened before. The lyric, some are dead, some are living. A very introspective song from John's point of view. And at that point, somebody at 25 writing something like that, all the more powerful, especially what was to happen later, of course, in his life. Fifth track we get is Strawberry Fields Forever. This is from 1967 as a single. Number 8 in the US is what this single charted here in the US. Just a surreal song, not included on the Sgt. Pepper album. Which, speaking of, that's track number 6, A Day in the Life. That's just basically the ending track from the Sgt. Pepper album. Again, phenomenal track, very much associated with John. And again, following the tone of the film, these are all songs and clips of John's life that we're seeing throughout the film. The next track we get is track number 7, which is Revolution from 1968, the Beatles single. The fast version, thanks to both George and Paul in this case, versus Revolution 1, which is included on the White Album, or the more experimental Revolution 9. Oh, we'll just call it experimental. I have my own thoughts about that at a later date. Only number 12 in the US, surprisingly. I was kind of surprised when I was researching this a little bit. I thought it charted higher as a single upon initial release, but great rocking song. Next up, we get track number 8, The Ballad of John and Yoko. This was number 8 in the US, released in 1969 as a single. This only has John and Paul on the track. And John would kind of give a little bit of a thank you, which I'll get to in another track or two here in the review. Track number 9, we get Julia. This is John's tribute to his mom, who had been killed about 10 years prior. This is from the 1968 White Album track. Track number 10, we get Don't Let Me Down from 1969. This was the B-side of the Get Back single, released in April 1969 in the US. It's also, of course, on the rooftop performance, and especially from the more recent Get Back documentary. So just nice to have it. Kind of nice to have it on the album, at least, as they were going this route. Track number 11, Give Peace a Chance, the 1969 single. Now, this was credited to both John and Paul, although John wrote it completely himself. This was kind of a thank you for Paul helping John to complete the Ballad of John and Yoko, since it was just the two of them on that track that I just mentioned a moment ago. So again, at least on this particular album, it still has the John and Paul credit. Later, it does get restored to just saying sole credit for John Lennon. Take that as you will. Track number 12 is How. That's from the 1971 Imagine album, which I previously reviewed. Very nice contemplative track, in my view. Track number 13, we get a little rehearsal snippet of Imagine, 1 minute and 24 seconds. That's been released on the Imagine box set since this album came out. We get track number 14, God. That's from the John Lennon Plastic Ono band album. Very powerful song, probably one of the more famous lines in it for the more casual fans out there. I don't believe in Beatles, I just believe in me. Again, John right after the breakup, trying to demolish the whole myth of the Beatles, as it were. Track number 15, Mother, also from the 1970 John Lennon Plastic Ono album Band. And again, powerful song. So again, just two very powerful songs from a, really good album, in my view. We then skip ahead in the chronology to track number 16, which is Stand By Me. That's from the 1975 rock and roll album. Cover song actually made number 20 in the US charts. I was kind of surprised when I was researching this that it did make it that high as a single. Really great cover. And in fact, I think it kind of is maybe even a little bit better than the original Benny King version. Myself, I tend to prefer this one a little bit more. Both great songs, though. I mean, the original, from the original Stand By Me single, that was used in the 1986 film. I can highly recommend that. Not trying to go off on too much of a tangent, but both great songs. But I do prefer the John Lennon version, maybe just a little bit more in some ways. Track number 17, we get Jealous Guy. That's from the 1971 Imagine album. Again, very nice song. And then we're just skipping ahead a bit more as they're following the film. Track number 18 is Woman. That's from the 1980 Double Fantasy album. Really nice tribute and song to Yoko and to all women out there. Number 2 in the US, released posthumously as a single after the events of December 1980. Track number 19, we get Beautiful Boy. That's from the 1980 Double Fantasy album. Very nice tribute to Sean. Very touching, moving song. I'll get to these more in an in-depth review of Double Fantasy at some point as the album itself. Track number 20, we get Just Like Starting Over. Also from 1980's Double Fantasy album. Released as the first single in October of 1980. It initially went to number 6 prior to John's death in December of 1980. In the aftermath, it went to number 1, given that horribly tragic event. And finally, to wrap up the soundtrack, we get Imagine as the 21st and final track. Of course, the single and title track from the 1971 Imagine album, number 3 in the US. So kind of a final verdict on the album. Now, I'm saying this, with love, with respect. We love John, we miss John. I'm going to put it out there. but I'm putting it as pick up next with a caveat. Now, the quality of the material is amazing. You know, that's really not in question, not in doubt. You pick this up for collectability. It's not on streaming, as opposed to the Give My Regards to Broad Street soundtrack, which is on streaming, is not on a current physical format. This soundtrack is, again, just in the physical format. If you can track it down, it's kind of nice to have, at least from a collector's standpoint. It's just that a lot of it is available now elsewhere. I mean, you've got the Give Me Some Truth box set from October of 2020. That would be the ultimate collection. That would be the ultimate pick it up, you know, get it, and that's in one of my previous reviews. Even the 1982 posthumous John Lennon collection has a lot of the same tracks that are on this album. And just like the film, I mean, there's no tracks from Mind Games from 1973 or Walls and Bridges from 1974. Again, you know, Mind Games, you've got the title track Mind Games, which is a top 10 hit in the U.S. Walls and Bridges, you've got Whatever Gets You Through the Night, which is a single that John Lennon did with Elton John, released it. That was the only #1 single within John's lifetime. You get Number 9 Dream from Walls and Bridges, which hit number 9 in the U.S. charts. So it's definitely missing some material, and I feel like, again, I know it's following the film. It's obviously meant as a companion to the film itself. Maybe for whatever reason, even though Yoko said to the director, David Wolpert, look, I want it to be an honest film. You have control over it. Here's all the footage. Here's all the material. It is a little puzzling why they didn't go a little bit more in depth into the Lost Weekend period, both in the film and even on the soundtrack. You could have, you know, at least included 2 songs on the soundtrack to kind of round it out. And during the Lost Weekend segment in the film, you know, maybe just kind of gone into a couple of the songs. You didn't have to make it much of a longer segment, in my view, but it's just kind of missing a little part of the chapter, a little part of the story, in my view. And I'll even put it for 1972, Sometime in New York City, which, you know, I would probably go with the weakest John album out there. You know, even then, really not, you know, mentioning it or putting it on part of the soundtrack. I think these are the reasons I'm really putting it as pick up next. But again, the material is strong, no doubt. But even following the film itself, you know, you could have included more solo stuff, less Beatles stuff, maybe. But these are just kind of my thoughts, my little unscripted thoughts at the end of this review. I think, again, you know, it does a good job of following the film. Obviously, in a 2-hour film, you're following John from his birth in 1940 to his death in 1980, and then a bit of the aftermath at that point when the film was released. So again, that's my thoughts on the soundtrack itself. Join me for part 3. Now, part 3 will actually be the companion book, which is really nice. So if you put all this together, if you put the DVD together with the CD, together with the book, you still get a nice package, you know. Very nice set of material as far as, you know, as far as the movie is concerned. Anyways, I hope everybody's staying safe, and please remember to just give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. I appreciate all the new subscribers. As I said, I am getting back on track. I apologize for not getting something out there last week, and I wanted to make sure to kind of get something out by the end of this weekend, as I put in my last quick video. But just stay safe, be kind to each other. And of course, I'll see everybody on the next review for part 3 for the book, which will have some really nice pictures and everything to go with it. So thank you so much. Until next time, bye.